this week is Flood Preparedness Week in Maine and New Hampshire, put on by the National Weather Service in Gray.
Yeah, it's a week that teaches and informs residents on flood safety as we approach the melting season.
Yeah, we were just talking about melting and mud. I was asking how muddy it was at Back Cove. Yep. And I'm happy to hear there are some improvements there. Let's talk about some of the flooding basics ahead of spring, because you can imagine it's a factor.
It really is. You know that the National Weather Service in Gray has been posting on their Facebook and all their social media all week long. Every day they take a different point. They did flood safety one day. They did types of floods, what to do if you're in a flood. That's the one they put out today. So it's all on their Facebook page if you want to get into that. But I do want to start off with the basics, the difference between flood watch and warning. So a flood watch, whenever you see that issued for your area, those are when conditions are favorable for a flood to occur. A warning is that the flood is about to, maybe minutes or even hour away from happening or already is happening. You probably see flood advisories more. That's when the flood may cause an inconvenience, but not severe enough for a warning. Think about like puddles or big streams on your street, even when the rivers are beginning to crest just a little bit. Flash flood warning, though, we do see a few of those really throughout the state, but we see more flood warnings than flash flood warnings. But past couple of years, we've been seeing it, especially with the December floods, too. I'll talk about that coming up in a couple minutes. Just a quick refresher, what to do if you're in a flash flood warning. Move to higher ground, don't walk or drive in the high water, and be cautious at all times. Here's a couple of things what to do before, during, or even after a flood. And you know what, like, we don't always think about these things, but it's a nice refresher, especially heading into the melting and ice jam season with a lot of the rivers may be flooding, especially as we head towards March, April, and even a little bit of May. Before you're in a flood or if a flood happens in your area, know the risk of your area, especially if you live in a flood-prone area along Kennebec River, Androscoggin River, what we've been seeing in the past as well. Make a plan if you need to leave. I know that last year, or 2 years ago in December 2023, residents in Bethel and Newry, some people had to leave and they just weren't ready for that. So just have a plan just in case if you're in that flood prone area. If the flood is ongoing, remain very aware, move to higher ground, make that leave if you need to. And then after the flood, that's probably the most devastating part is when you leave and come back. Avoid the flood waters. There could be live wires in the flood, sometimes animals too. Maybe not in our neck of the woods where you're seeing crocodiles in the flooding like down south, but live wires, debris, make sure you follow those road signs as well. It doesn't happen often, but along the rivers it does. Here are the historic Maine floods. This is listed on the National Weather Service website. The flood of April 1987, I have some pictures of that to follow here. Flood of March 1936, the St. John River flood of April 2008, flood of October of 1996, and flood of April 2007. These are the historic and most significant Maine floods. You can find more about these on our website and National Weather Service in Gray. So this picture is from April 2nd of 1987. This is in Hollowell, Maine. Taken by Robert Young, who works for the National Weather Service. So devastating pictures here. And then this is the footbridge that connects Brunswick and Topsom. And the river's beginning to crest also on that same day. This picture was taken around 9 a.m. in the morning.
That's mind-boggling. I was just walking across that bridge this summer, and I was looking down at the water. I can't believe that that's up right to the bridge right there.
Right, and you know what? Like even really December 2023, that's when we had a lot of floods. We had the one up in Bethel and Newry that we just talked about, up near Sunday River. The road to Sunday River was destroyed too.
Washed away, I feel like.
Seriously, and the Hannaford to Hollowell was basically underwater. I think it was 2 days either after or prior to that. So really within 1 week in December, we're seeing a lot of flooding. That's because it was very warm and a lot of that snow pack was melting. And that's typically what we see this time of year, March, April, even sometimes really early May. We do see a lot of that melting, especially inland. So look for ice jams. I know National Weather Service covered a little bit about ice jams. They can cause flooding too. So if you're anywhere in a flood prone area, just keep this in mind. Have a plan in case you need it, batteries, flashlights, stuff like that.
And especially some of those areas, again, by the rivers. I mean, I've been up there near Hallowell when they had the flooding, Gardner, downtown area, into Hannaford, and also the Kennebec River, Augusta, that downtown, or Water Street.
North Sydney too, Waterville. Those are really the hot spots that we look for. I remember when we were dealing with a lot of these floods in the past, it's when I first moved to Maine, so I learned quickly what each individual towns are near the rivers. And those are where we see a lot of the flood watches and warnings, especially for this time of year.
And officials are really good in those specific areas
Yes.
about warning, hey, we're monitoring this. They'll post on Facebook and things like that. They'll put signs up, don't park in this parking lot because it's going to flood,
especially
things
the
like that.
Augusta location along the Kennebec.
Yep.
I was reporting there I would say probably a couple months ago, and they had the big signs up, don't go in this lot.
Yep.
They officials do know what areas do and don't flood, but there has been times like Bethel and Newry, for example. I keep bringing that up because it was so abrupt, so quick, and people just weren't expecting it. I remember looking at all the Facebook comments on the Facebook groups up in Western Maine, and they were like, I was not expecting this.
You saw that flooding in Vermont as well.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Twice really in the last couple of years.
So what's the saying, especially when you're in your car and you see a flooded, turn around, don't drown.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's what the National Weather Service in Gray is covering today on their Facebook page.
Awesome. Really important information and timely as well.
Exactly. Well, if you have any weather-related questions, maybe about floods or coastal flooding in our area, you can always email us at weather@wgme.com.